Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. This time it's a video about the top 5 constructs in the 9th Age. And this is going to be mostly about, choices that are going to be buff focused. They may or may not be war platforms, and they will probably large and constructs. That is to distinguish them a bit from the chariots from last week's video. Without any ado, I'll just go into the number 5 pick for me. This is going to be the Dreadels Divine Altar. It's quite a new choice, and it's a choice that has to choose either of two upgrades. So it either has to go for an Effigy of Dread, or it has to go for a Crucible of Slaughter. And if you go for the Effigy of Dread, then the model gains Channel 3, Fear, Fearless, and Unbreakable. So that is quite a list of special rules. And the funny thing is about this choice that you cannot move it at all during the game. So you cannot perform any advanced moves, any march moves, any magical moves, not even random movement. You can also not pursue, it just cannot move. And that sounds like a really bad choice for a model. However, it's 200 points if you take it as the Effigy of Dread for Channel 3, which is quite a decent deal. Normally you pay 50 points for Channel 1, so it is a worse deal than just paying 3 times for Channel. However, you don't have to pay for a character that has to carry the Talisman of the Void, for example. And Channel 3 really benefits the army with the Wizard Master not getting any type of +1 to cast. Or well, the +1 to cast is offset by the fact that the casting values of the spells are also increased by 1. So it does complement the army quite well, also with the fact that most casters in the army are already quite expensive, being elven characters. So you're not going to spam a lot of wizard adepts to just get your channel in. In addition, this model also gives you a fear aura within 18 inches of the model, and also enemy units within 18 inches of the model cannot benefit from rally around the flag for fear tests. It's mostly useful in a meta where fear tests are a bit more, bit less choices are immune to fear. But I believe the designs of the upcoming books are going to be such that there's going to be less fearless in the armies. And this is a way for the Dreadel army also to become immune to the effects of fear themselves, which is maybe a bit of a bigger part even than causing fear yourself. This bubble, you can increase it a bit using veil tokens up to 24 inches in total. I think it's a really good choice, because fear against some armies it's really valuable. Also, you're putting down a war machine or something that your opponent has a bit of an idea of, or a bit of pressure feeling that he has to take it down, because otherwise you're benefiting from Channel 3 each turn. However, by the time that your opponent will be able to tear it down, the effect has probably already been taking place for a couple of turns, because if your opponent starts to just shoot at it with cannons and stuff, it's only good for you because he's also not shooting it at other stuff in your army. Alternatively, you can field it as a Crucible of Slaughter, and then basically it gives everything in base contact of it, also other Dread Elf units, -1 resilience. So you deploy it in a unit, cannot leave the unit, and your unit gets -1 resilience in combat. However, in combat, the enemy units also get -1 resilience, and the crew have Blades of Darak. So if you cast any augment spells or any one-turn spells on the unit, they are going to get +1 strength, coupled with the Ruthless Efficiency for the +1 to wound in the first round of combat. You're very quickly looking at 6 attacks that wound on a 2+, and well, you have offensive 5 lightning reflexes. You quite often hit on a 2+ as well, so that's going to be quite some wounds. The only downside is the low AP. And also, in addition, you do take up 3 models wide of Dread Elves. So in terms of attacks, you might just decrease the quality of your attacks in the unit, depending on which unit you field these guys in. Yeah, I think that covers the number 5 choice, so let's continue with the number 4 one. For me, this is going to be the Ogre Khan's Thunder Cannon. So this is quite a solid choice in my book. The Thunder Cannon has a cannon with a range of 48 inches, with strength 10, AP 10, multiple wounds, D3 plus 1 with clipped wings. So if you have any dragon or any other flying beast on the enemy army, that's going to be in a lot of pain. The thing that has struck me the most about this choice over the years of playing against them is that they're only 320 points, whilst the normal Empire cannon is about 250 points. So for around 70 points, what are you getting? Well, you get a mobile cannon. Of course, I believe you can even just move and shoot with it. But yeah, I believe you can. And yeah, you do get a minus one to hit from moving, but otherwise you can move and shoot with it, so your opponent doesn't have that much counterplay in terms of where his model is going to be to have it shielded from any cannon fire if he's gigantic, because the only thing you can realistically hide behind is a building and just not be in the game for the rest of the game, or your own gigantic model, and then well, that gigantic model is gonna get a cannonball to the face. In addition, it's a really potent cannon with D3 plus 1 wounds with clipped wings. 4 plus is fine because you'll often be shooting at short range anyway at 24 inches. And against gigantic targets, you're gonna get a plus 1 to hit on a 3 plus. So that is really decent. The only thing with cannons is always that if they misfire on a 1 and they cannot fire for the rest of the game, then they cannot fire for the rest of the game anymore. However, this one still has also 5 hit points with resilience 5 instead of 4 of a normal cannon, and armor 3 instead of no armor for just an Empire cannon. So as an Empire player, I'm always really jealous of these things. Also because you still get D6 impact hits if you were to charge. You still have 3 strength 5 attacks, 3 strength 4 attacks, and 1 strength 3 attack. The only downside is that you don't have Swift Stride on the model because you're a large construct and not a chariot. But, well, you cannot have it all. So, yeah, this is going to be my number 4 pick. Then for the number 3 choice, it's going to be the Empire of Sonstyle Steam Tank. This is quite an iconic choice within the army, and it's also quite a solid choice. So it's 475 points, which is quite a chunk of your army. However, every single game that I have played with a steam tank, it was well worth it, because the biggest thing about the steam tank is that it's in an army that is not that mobile with Empire of Sunstyle, but it is basically just a big nope button that works against a lot of different things. And is really mobile, also has a really good lateral mobility, in the sense that it can go 53 inches in any direction. And it just threatens everything in that bubble. So every time I play with elves, I'm really scared of steam tanks. Because, well, basically of the impact hits, 2d3, strength 7 impact hits is quite nasty. So it does have a smaller cannon than the Thunder Cannon, with only strength 7, with only D3 wounds and with clipped wings. Against a lot of targets, this is still okay. The only downside is that it's only 36 inches, so you'll be often shooting at a long range, so you'll also get to be shooting at 4+, and you'll also often move with it, so then you're gonna only hit on a 5+. However, against gigantic targets, you're gonna get a +1 to hit, unless they're in cover again. But the steam cannon, I guess a lot of people are really afraid of the steam cannon. I don't think it's the biggest threat of the steam tank itself. I think it's just the random movement 5d3 in a circle that it can go, and basically the unconditional damage that it just puts out. Yeah, and it's really tough to grind the steam tank down with the 7 HP at resilience 6, armor 6. Armor 6 is really incredible. It's just such a solid pick for the army, especially also because in the army it fills a really pivotal role of allowing you to just field it on a flank and protecting your entire flank with it. Sure, there's some armies that have some counters against it, and then you have um, to beware a bit more. But yeah, generally it's just a really good pick. There's also people that think that alchemy magic is a really good counter against the steam tank. In a sense, that is true. However, if you cast, for example, a Quicksilver Lash, you're gonna do 2 to 3 wounds to it probably. That definitely hurts, but it's 2 or 3 wounds out of a 7 wounds total. If that is going to be the one spell that I would let my opponent cast, and it's going to take 3, maybe 4 turns even with some luck to get the steam tank down just on the Quicksilver Lashes, then you're still going to pull out the 4 turns of shooting. The steam tank still does what it does, because you're still zoning with it. It's fine. Investing 475 points to get the magic of your opponent. Just focused on one single choice that you can just reliably say that your opponent's going to cast on, that is also really worth the points already. Yeah, so that's going to be my number 3 pick. Then for the number 2, we will go to the Warriors of the Dark Gods for the Helmor. Yeah, so people that play Warriors of the Dark Gods either love this model or hate it, because it adds a unique mechanic to the Warriors of the Dark Gods army, and that is the gateway mechanic. It's quite a lengthy rule. In summary, you're allowed to put portals on the playing field, and you can teleport between the portals with your unit. If you go through a portal, there's no chance that you will end up in combat in the same round. So you're not allowed to charge through a portal, is what I'm saying there. However, just the amount of flexibility that this gives to you, to your army, the game is still about movement. It's incredible. In addition, a lot of players are really focused on removing the Helmor once they see that you bring one. So a lot of cannon fire and a lot of magic is going to be focused on the Helmor. And I think the best choice if you just want to really play a bit with the portals is to take one gateway, because 2 seems a bit excessive. One gateway gets you just started in turn 2, which is just fine enough for my purposes at least. Because I usually see it as an addition to my army, just to increase the amount of matchups that are favorable for me, and it really plays with the mind of your opponent more than giving more. It just more rather plays with the minds of your opponent than that it gives you any other benefit to your army. But it's just there's so many options with the Helmor, and if you build your list to it, it can get really crazy. So I did play a list for some time with 2 Chosen Lords on Warrior Chariots with Lust. These guys, they have a minimized discipline rally test for their rally test, and they're not shaken if they voluntarily fled because of faint flight. And that is really cool, because then you set up your Chosen Lord, you set a gateway marker behind him, your opponent's going to charge him. You flee, you rally minimized, you walk on top of the token that you put in your own turn, and then you can teleport just anywhere on the board with this dude that just fled from a charge from your enemy. If you can do that with 2 guys every single turn, ideally, then you can really outmaneuver your opponent. I had a last matchup against demons, so I had my warriors and he had last demons, and he was basically paying a lot for his mobility on his units, and I just outmaneuvered him in every single aspect of the game. Even my just core warriors were more maneuverable with the Helmor than any of his units were. Yeah. There's also this guy on YouTube, Alexander Schmidt, and he discusses the Helmor use, and he also compares it to a warrior chariot, which is quite an interesting comparison, because, well, the Helmor doesn't zone as a warrior chariot does. It doesn't have swift stride. It doesn't have some of the boons that it has, the warrior chariot. But it still has 5 attacks at strength 5 with AP2. It does have 5 wounds with resilience 5 and armor 2 and an Aegis 5 up. So stat-wise, it's quite comparable to a warrior chariot. So he also plays it sometimes a bit as a warrior chariot, I believe. So to also mop up some stuff at the end of the battle. I think that's really fair, and if you consider it like that, then you'd pay 280 points just for a Helmor, just to get a mechanic in your army that if you get a matchup where you would want to have some portals, then you can make use of it, and that really broadens the armies that you can play into with your warriors. Then for the last choice, this is going to be for me the Vampire Covenant Court of the Damned. This is an incredible model, I think. It just changes matchups, well, mostly between the unit that it's in and, well, any unit that it encounters. It's only 300 points. You often see it with some characters on top. I don't really get that per se because yeah, if you face any cannons, then you're going to be a bit sad. However, the Court of the Damned itself is 300 points, which is quite a decent price for something that buffs up your unit as much as the Court of the Damned does. In Vampire Covenant, it is quite rare to get a lot of attacks at a decent strength for a cheap price. It's only in your Swift Death section and on the vampires, basically. Court of the Damned is from Special, so this is already quite interesting. And just the amount of output that it gives is quite impressive, because you get 6 strength 5 attacks at agility 6 with offensive 5. That is just nice. The offensive 5 is not incredibly high. However, with the Chill of the Grave universal rule of the Court of the Damned, your enemies get -2 defensive skills, so effectively you're striking at offensive 7. In addition, you have 8 attacks at offensive 2, effectively at offensive 4, with strength 3. These usually don't do that much, but I mean, it's nice to have them. And you have D6 impact hits with strength 5. Defense-wise, you have 5 hit points with defensive 5 and resilience 5 and an armor 2. If you play Lamia, you can get a 4 of Aegis on it. And yeah, that is. I think most often I just played it not as Lamia, because 75 points. It also increases the cost of your court quite a bit. I just like it for 300 points just to put it in a unit. Benefit from the 6 attacks from the Paramours, benefit from the -2 agility that also changes up a lot of matchups with a lot of different armies. Because suddenly your skeletons are going to be effectively an agility 4. And there's a lot of stuff in the game with agility 3, so suddenly you strike at the same time. And in addition, your Paramours that are on the Court of the Damned, they get +2 agility. Well, the enemy gets -2 agility, so they strike effectively at agility 8. And any vampires that are joined to the unit also strike at least that agility, effectively. So yeah, it's this is really good. Also, it combines still with the potion of swiftness and other stuff, because your own agility is, any agility stat is capped to an agility of 10 in the game. But through this, if you use a potion of swiftness and get to agility 10 yourself, your opponent is actually just capped at agility 8 in this way. If I say that right, I don't think I do, because I think you first apply the modifiers and then you look at the outcome. However, it's really difficult for an opponent to get to agility 12, 13 before the Chill of the Grave kicks in. So you will be striking first, definitely, if you use a potion of swiftness. Against a lot of armies, that is not that consequential, but it's really also an anti-elf setup, where even stuff like Sword Masters are gonna just strike later than the paramours of your Court of the Damned. I think it's a really cool model, and it's definitely worth the investment. Um, yeah, it doesn't change your army as much as the Helmar would, or the Steam Tank, or any of these others. Just if you play Vampire Covenant and you haven't included it in your army yet, then just consider it for a while, and it really changes up some of your units, bringing, like, for example, just a core scouting unit up to a new level of combat prowess, and limiting the waste that you make in terms of points on your core setup. So that's going to be it. I'm curious to hear if you agree with my list or not. So if you don't agree, please leave a comment on the video down below, and I'll see you the next time.